Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Now, before we jump into the video, just a quick public service announcement. Around 65% of you aren't currently subscribed to our channel, but you're watching the videos. Now, we appreciate the support. We appreciate the love. We appreciate the love on all socials. If you are going to watch our videos, please, 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 please give the video a like and subscribe to our channel. We are gradually growing. We're up to 60 subscribers now. Yep, 60 subscribers. That means 60 people are actually watching our videos for some reason. But yeah, in the meantime, enjoy the video now. Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Welcome back to the We Talk Football podcast. The last 24 hours have been a madness, an absolute madness. I'm going to start with a little statement, then I'm going to let these boys get into it. The formation of the Super League comes at a time when the global pandemic has accelerated the instability in the existing European football economic model. Further, for a number of years, the founding clubs have had the objective of improving the quality and intensity of existing European competitions throughout each season and of creating a format for top clubs and players to compete on a regular basis. Now, that was a statement from the European Super League. Kwaku.
There is so much to unpack, literally phones dinging off, group chats ringing off. I don't even know where to start with it. The first word is obviously greed, just greed. And the timing of it is absolutely mental. There's been talks about this, and Manchester United and Liverpool came up with a revised proposal of the Premier League, which would give more power to the top 6 clubs that got rejected outright. And now they've just literally dropped a bomb on the world of football, saying that the Super League, obviously that initially is going to run concurrently with the Premier League, but we all know that there's not going to be a world where the Premier League can exist with the Super League. So essentially, in my humble opinion, I feel like it's going to result in a defect in terms of these top 6 teams from England, as well as the top 3 teams in Italy and Spain. And eventually it will be the top team. It'll be PSG, and eventually it will be Bayern Munich. I know that they're standing firm right now, but we're seeing a seismic shift in football in terms of these big superpower clubs consolidating power and essentially trying to attempt a coup. Whilst football is at its most vulnerable, whilst football is on its knees essentially because of the pandemic, we're seeing these big clubs, almost like eyes light up when they've seen the pounds or the dollar signs and being backed by JP Morgan, and essentially trying to wrestle control of football away from the fans and away from where football's power should really lie. So it's been absolutely insane, man. I don't actually know what to make of it. I'll be interested to see or hear what Louis thinks of it.
I think Gary Neville needs a knighthood. Joke. He, I think, really, obviously, in his impassioned rant yesterday and on his podcast, sort of nailed it. And like you did, it's very much greed. It's really American. I mean, obviously, I'm going to throw this one in. I read that apparently City and Chelsea were very much backed into a corner by it, by the American-run clubs, aka Liverpool, Man United, because it's basically they want it to run like the NBA, but without a draft system, and the draft system can never work. So, I just don't understand it. I don't think anybody understands it. It's greed. It's disgusting. Like, at this point in time, we're talking about banning teams from the Champions League. We're in the semi-final of the Champions League. How much would, if you turned around and said, "Oh, Mason Mount, Reece James, Callum Hudson-Odoi," as a Chelsea fan, playing in the Champions League semi-final, potentially a final, how much would that have meant to a Chelsea fan if you asked them, would you take that at the beginning of the season? Absolutely everything. And now our club is going, oh, well, don't worry about it, guys, because the whole competition's irrelevant. What is the history of football? Does it mean anything?
I think ultimately you are correct, but I think you're talking from a football fan's perspective. And for a lot of this video, I'm a football fan. I don't want to support this move, but just to play devil's advocate to a lot of the arguments, you look at some of the owners of football clubs, especially the top 6 in the league, and they are investors now. They're not football club owners. They're investors in that football club, and their primary motive is to make money. So from a financial perspective, for each of these top 6 teams going into this Super League is you know, especially when we're in the things of like a midst of a pandemic, you know, clubs are far in turmoil in terms of the financial debt they're going to. Look at Barcelona, for example, the amount of debt that they've got. Every team going into this Super League, I'm not 100% sure on the figures. Is it 3.5 billion up front, Quakes?
Yeah, the figures are that they vary, but it's JP Morgan backed, and they pledged an initial $5 billion. So essentially, it's going to be run, or Super League looking to return, provide a return on investment to their shareholders, which the current Premier League or the League or Serie A model doesn't currently do.
Was it JP Morgan?
It's been.
Was it JP Morgan that basically shorted the housing industry in America? What, like 15 years ago? Am I correct in saying that?
I wouldn't be too sure.
Louis, mate, no idea.
I'm pretty sure that they essentially helped cause a recession, and now they are going to be helping destroy football.
Now they're trying to kill football. Yeah,
big up the banks. Thank you very much for that.
Madness, absolute madness. As we said, mad 24-hour period. For anyone that doesn't know, Kwaku works at TalkSport, and I was talking to him intermittently throughout the day yesterday. I think you worked from 6 a.m. until near midnight. One of the maddest days you've had to come up. What were some of the things you were having to deal with? Because I imagine working in the media, having to deal with a headline like that. It must have been all systems go.
Yeah, so it's wild because like we've heard the proposals of this before, or like versions of this, and you just don't ever believe it's going to go ahead. But this is very much going ahead. Like they've got a website, they've got a Twitter handle, they've released a statement. All the clubs have released a statement. Clubs don't release statements willy-nilly. Do you know what I mean? Clubs don't come out and release statements unless it's a big deal. So
at midnight as well.
At midnight, like it's happening. It is happening, and it's just whether there's going to be enough, if the public pressure is enough for the clubs to reverse the decisions, because that's all that can happen right now. Because I know they're talking about, the Premier League are talking about not going ahead with it at all, and the Super League proposed that they run it alongside each other. We all know that that's not going to happen. You're going to play Super League midweek and play Premier League on the weekend, and this extra 3.55 billion, whatever it is, that helps build your club up to a point where these clubs in the Premier League can't even compete, and so the top six is going to be even more divided from the rest of the league. Why would the Premier League allow that to happen? It's an absolute bombshell. And what affects us the most is that tapestry of football is sacred. Whether it's the records, whether it's the trophies, whether it's anything, and that's been completely ripped apart in terms of. It's almost like when the Premier League started in 1992, and we almost, as fans, only recognise records that start from 1992. Mm-hmm. This is that tenfold. This is
of course. It's like, I mean, culture is effectively knowledge, and you know, our lives have been lived based upon the knowledge of the culture of football. Like you say, that tapestry going back to even 1992, the beginning of the Premier League. It's like we know football within these boundaries and within these sort of tropes, and to completely break them down and change them destroys the sanctity of the game. As Gary Neville said, I just can't comprehend it. They want to take away the FA Cup, the oldest trophy in football in history. It is disgusting. I mean, as fans, where do you boys stand in terms of, obviously, like you say, they're very much attacking while the game's on its knees. There are no fans in the stadiums to boycott it, because guaranteed there would be nobody turning up this weekend if it was the case. And I mean, what do we do? Do we not watch games online? Like, how do we take a stand? It's absolutely ridiculous. And I, for one, will be like, I can't be backing this or engaging with it. It genuinely breaks my heart if this is going to be going through.
Yeah, and for me, it's some of the wider implications it will have, some of the ramifications that will come as a result of this move. You know, as you've alluded to, Gary Neville spoke about it. There are clubs even as high up as League One that are financially struggling and may go under at this moment in time. Some of the wider implications of this, it completely, in my opinion, it devalues the entire Premier League.
It devalues league football across England and the world.
I'll ask you this, for example. I'm a huge football fan. I watch as much football as I can, you know, within reason, of course. I don't think I've watched a championship game all year because I just haven't watched a championship game. Do you know what I mean? I know Norwich have played well. I know Norwich got promoted the other day. But what happens when this European Super League gets created and that's now the top dog? Do people stop watching the Premier League? What happens to all the teams in the Premier League? What happens to the funding, the grassroots football? It's the wider implications for me.
These saturated at top level.
These 6 teams are essentially casting every other team's adrift, costing every other
throwing them under the bus.
Yeah. But what an important thing you touched on there, Jamie, is the viewing figures. And that's where, like, of course, we're all on the same page in terms of this is disgusting, but there is some hypocrisy here because the Premier League has a part to play in this. Sky Sports has a part to play in this. When you allow these billionaire owners who have vested interests elsewhere, they are business people, they are not football people, and you allow them to come into the game and consolidate and hold that power and create this fallacy of the Big Six. The Big Six today is different to the Big Six 20 years ago, it's different to the Big Six 40 years ago. That thing is a constantly revolving thing depending on how football goes. And when you're creating this Big Six and you're putting certain games on TV all the time and be like, these are the games you want to watch, these are the teams you want to support, these are the teams you care about, and then you're further empowering these clubs in terms of financial wealth or whatever, and they get to a position where they're like, you know what, we actually don't need you anymore. As much as it's not Gary Neville's fault, it's not Michael Richards' fault, it's not Roy Keane's fault, who spoke brilliantly on it yesterday. Sky Sports has a massive part to play because they've empowered these clubs to get to the point where, like, the distribution of money within the Premier League is not even. It's not like you watch the same amount of Burnley games as you watch Chelsea games, you watch the same amount of Sheffield United games as you watch Manchester United games. There's a disparity there, and that's because the Sky Sports want to make money. They want to make money off of the teams that are most popular. If the Premier League was really going to be fair, every team would be shown on TV the same amount, they'd be reported and covered the same amount, but they're not. They're not. And as a result of that, it's empowered these teams, and you've let, like, if you're a Newcastle fan right now, you are losing your mind. You got told you couldn't have a billionaire owner come in or whatever. You're going to be taken over by and was that like a coup by these big clubs who knew this was on the horizon? It was like, we can't allow Newcastle to get this money because otherwise it could disrupt this whole kind of Super League. It just unravels. It's Pandora's box right now. It's absolutely crazy. But there is some Sky Sports and the Premier League also do have a part to play in this because they allowed it to kind of take place initially.
I agree, as eloquently put there, Quakes, and we'll be sure on We Talk Football to bring you guys more daily updates on this as and when we have more information. Quaker is very much in the know because he's always in the industry kind of doing this thing. But to move on to some other pressing news in football today, as if there isn't enough football news at the moment, Jose Mourinho is, I'm going to read the headline. Jose Mourinho I'll get it out.
Go on,
Mourinho sacked by Spurs. Huge. Mourinho has been sacked by Spurs, with Louis saying when he first came in, just off camera, that it's because he didn't want to take training after the announcement. That hasn't been confirmed yet. But what is going on? What is going on?
Before a final, with a final in a week, what is Daniel Levy playing at?
It is wild. You brought Jose Mourinho in to win trophies, and no matter what the situation is, if it's Mourinho, the only way that Mourinho can be salvaged in this situation is if it's a case of, I'm not taking training because I disagree with the Super League, and then he's back to being the special one, and he's the people's champion. But if it's the fact that Daniel Levy sacked him like 6 days before a cup,
because he doesn't back it,
mate, this could completely turn public opinion on Jose Mourinho, because I feel like
it's gone already.
He's been drastically losing the public for a long time. I think even last night there were Liverpool fans bowing down to Gary Neville. Gary Neville was a man of the people last night. And if Jose Mourinho has actually left his job the week before the week of now, by the way, of a cup final, mate, crazy.
I just think from Daniel Levy's perspective, like Quakey says, it's like, you've literally brought him in. It's not even how long? A season and a half, if that. You've brought him in to win you trophies. He's got you to a cup final 6 days out. You know, I mean, like you say, the court of public opinion has definitely changed, but still, to a degree, if you gave me the opportunity to have a manager for any random team to take you to a final to win you that specific game, it's potentially Jose Mourinho every time.
To quote Max Kellerman, the fate of the universe on the line. Who do you want in this situation? In football, you want Jose Mourinho. And to get rid of him 6 days.
I cannot comprehend it. I literally cannot believe it. Who are they going to get in? Harry Kane.
I was just thinking about who's going to replace him. Like, obviously, there'll be the Nagelsmann links and things like that. And I suppose
please stay, Harry. You can manage our club.
This is also fresh. I don't even think Tottenham have actually confirmed the sacking yet. It's been confirmed by Sky Sports, but I don't even think there's been an official announcement by the club. And it's something that we'll be bringing you. Obviously, guys, we're finding out a lot of information when you guys do. We're just relaying it, putting it on the internet for you, giving our opinions. As soon as we find out more information, we'll be giving more information for you. But Quakes, where can they find us in the meantime?
Bro, I'm so overwhelmed right now. Before I read out the socials, it's crazy that this weekend's had massive kind of ramifications for the teams that we support. Obviously, Chelsea making it to a final, West Ham doing what West Ham did against Newcastle. But the fact that we haven't even been able to talk about that because football's just imploded is absolutely crazy. And before I read out the social, I'll just say pray for football because the beating heart of football is already dying with VAR and whatever happened this year. But
I think
this is the final dagger.
If you look at what's happened to football since we've started a podcast, like,
oh my God.
do you know what I mean? Like, football has actively changed more in the last 9 months than it has in the last 10 years. I think really, it's just.
I think what's essential to remember, like you say, pray for football quakes. What makes football? Fans. We have input. We've been silenced right now. And I think hopefully, you know, over the next couple of days, you're going to see the fan trust and supporters unions coming together. And hopefully there's going to be some sort of blueprint once we get a little bit more insight and information about what everyone can do, what the public can do. Because, you know, this is like being a child and having your favorite toy taken away from you and burnt in front of you.
I love the comparison. All right, guys.
That's how I feel.
You can find us on Instagram at We Talk Football Podcast, on Twitter, WTF Podcast 90. We're on TikTok. We haven't posted in a couple of days. That's on me. We're on Apple Podcast. We're on Spotify. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to We Talk Football. Over the next week or so, obviously football kind of going mad, we're going to be bringing you daily videos. So make sure you like this video and subscribe to We Talk Football for more daily videos.
Peace.
Awesome.